Welcome to episode 44 of Believe in TCU as part of the Believe Network. I'm Zion Trammell. I got Seth Dowdle with me here today. The Big 12 baseball tournament is upon us. It's finally that time as the tournament will start tomorrow on Wednesday from Globe Life Field. We're going to be discussing the bracket expectations for TCU and just a couple other, things regarding college baseball. But Seth, how are you doing today? Had a good weekend?
Yeah, great weekend. Great weekend. Went to Florida, hung out with the rat and his kingdom,
There you
Mickey.
go. Yeah, okay. I was like, the rat? Okay,
Yeah, Mickey
yes.
the rat.
Yeah.
His big
Um,
beautiful castle.
yeah, there you go. Sounds fun. Um, before we get into the baseball conversation, we wanted to mention TCU men's tennis, who over the weekend they finished as the national runner-up to Wake Forest, and they did defeat Texas again to get to the national championship, which is pretty cool. But unfortunately, they lost to Wake Forest. Wanted to give a shout out to the guys, the TCU men's tennis team, Roditi and the boys, for a good season. I'm not huge into tennis, and to me, it almost feels like a national champion runner up is almost a disappointment now because they seem to always be in the conversation. They won the national championship a year ago. But yeah, I wanted to mention that. You got any thoughts on that, Seth?
Just by far the most successful athletic program on campus. But no, there's no competition. They
Yeah.
are routinely in the conversation for national championships, whether in indoor or outdoor. Um, and I'm looking forward to see how they continue to grow.
Yeah.
Roditi's squad is the best, except they are the second best this year.
They were the second best. Yeah, Wake Forest was the best, but that's all right. Just wanted to mention that. We again we're not huge into tennis, but it is worth noting, and obviously not something to just gloss over. But let's get into baseball. The Frogs come into the Big 12 tournament as the 3 seed, and um, it is a 12 team, yes, 12-team bracket this year. So not you had to qualify, and it's single elimination this year, so the bracket looks a little bit cleaner, and it's a lot easier to kind of understand the path to the Big 12 championship. TCU did win their series over Utah. They won 2 out of 3. It kind of got shaky there on Saturday with game 3 going into extra innings and exchanging leads. And that was important. TCU had to win that game in order to get the 3 seed in the Big 12 tournament. So glad they were able to do that. We're not going to talk about it too much. Again, Utah is the worst team in the Big 12. It's kind of expected that you win the series. Now we kind of move on to the tournament. Um,
Carson Bowen did get
First,
hurt over the weekend, so that is the big thing.
yes, that is actually what I was gonna say, Seth, is yes, Carson Bowen. Let me find the tweet. I can't remember if it was game 1 or 2. Yeah, he left game 2 against Utah with an injury. Shout out to JD Andrus, by the way, for this tweet that I'm reading off here. He was told it was fractured ribs, but the timeline is not certain on how long he'll be out. But obviously, you got to imagine he's going to miss the Big 12 tournament. That's a huge blow for the Horned Frogs, a guy at the top of the order that really found himself this season after a struggling sophomore year and really a leader for this Horned Frog team. And that's a big loss.
Yeah, for sure. And in a series that you win, you would like to come out with some more happy news. But uh, I mean, the good news for TCU is that at least at the catching position, you have a really good guy to come in and take over those reps. But yeah, it's for certain a guy that TCU's going to miss.
Yeah, it's a guy that has that playoff experience, a veteran bat. But, Nolan Traeger obviously um, can do his best to fill in those shoes, and he's done a good job this season. Quickly though, Seth, I know we're kind of jumping all over the place here, but
That's what
I
we
think
do.
we need to let a little rant off here. With the Big 12, Brett Yormark. They decided a few days ago that the Big 12 baseball tournament is headed to Arizona starting next year, um, at the home of the spring training facilities for the Texas Rangers. But the worst part about it is that it's outside in Arizona in May. The guys are going to be burning up out there. I don't understand why they made that decision to move away from Globe Life Field to go to Surprise, Arizona.
Real quick, I'm going to look at the weather for Surprise right now. What do we got
Uh-oh.
going on here?
I'm going to guess high 90s.
It's 86, but the high today is 96. It's hot in Arizona in May, and one of the biggest pitches of going to Globe Life was, remember, this tournament used to be in Oklahoma City, which was in a beautiful ballpark in downtown OKC, but there was always constant problems with the weather. Either it was, really hot, or it's kind of big thunderstorm season in kind of Tornado Alley in Oklahoma City's right in the center of that, and games were always getting, delayed or postponed or moved around. So you move it to Globe Life, and you have not had to deal with that at all. And it's just, a really awesome place for a game. Yes, it kind of feels a little bit cavernous for those, early games against teams that might not travel as well to DFW, but it's really centrally located now for everyone in the conference because, you got people, schools out in the West who can come out east to Texas. And then you got, like the Cincinnatis and the UCFs and the West Virginias that can come in the middle. And now you're moving it westward to Arizona. And yes, that makes it easier for schools like Utah and Arizona State and BYU. And Colorado doesn't have a baseball team to go out and play there. But it's incredibly harder now for everybody else, like Cincinnati, like UCF, like West Virginia, to go out there and watch their teams play. Heck, it's even difficult for, us here.
Mm-hmm.
Am I going to go fly out to Arizona, which, by the way, Surprise is about 45 minutes from the airport? Am I going to go out there and watch them play in 95-degree weather? Probably not. Is a fan from Cincinnati going to do that? Definitely not. So it's just a really strange decision. And unless there was some things behind the scenes with Globe Life Field that were prohibiting the conference from coming back, then this is just a really, really weird move to me. And it also kind of opens the door for a conference like the SEC, who's kind of been fiddling around with coming to Arlington for some of their championship games. There was some rumors that the SEC was going to play their football conference championship game at AT&T Stadium at some point. And there have been rumors that they want to move to Globe Life. Now they're locked into Hoover, Alabama through 2028, but who knows after that happens if they're going to try and come in and invade this part of the country where the Big 12 is kind of dominated, at least, in the athletic sphere in hosting games for a little while.
That's true. I didn't even think about that aspect of it. It's certainly really frustrating as someone, who is able to go to the Big 12 base tournament last year, to cover it in it's 20, 25 minutes away. And obviously I'm not able to go this year, but it is extremely frustrating. And I know we're not the only fan base that's frustrated by it. Obviously, it was convenient for TCU fans, but even it's more convenient for Baylor fans or for Texas Tech, whatever, to make that drive to come to Arlington. And yeah, I love the location. There's a lot to do in the area, and then go to Arizona. I mean, I've never been to spring training. I've never been to Surprise. Is there anything to do in that area?
There are certainly places in the Phoenix metro area and stadiums, that have spring training facilities that are in places that have a lot to do. Tempe, where the Angels play, Mesa, all that. Surprise is probably the place with the least amount of stuff to do. It's essentially like Prosper, Texas. It's really far out of the Phoenix area. It's pretty much on the farthest extent of it. It's 45 minutes from downtown. And there's not really much to do except the games. it's just kind of in the middle of a suburb. And yeah, it's just a really strange decision. If you were going to move to the Phoenix area, there were definitely some other stadiums that would have fit the bill better. I don't know, like the Major League Baseball stadium that's in the middle of downtown also could have been in works here. There's also, which is indoors, by the way. I don't know if people know this. And I mean, there's plenty of other ones. Surprise is it's a really nice ballpark. I was there in March, but besides that, it's just kind of a really strange decision in my opinion. Um, yeah, I mean, obviously we'll see how it plays out, but I think the weather is probably the biggest thing that
Yes.
just baffles me about this. Location is the second, but the weather is just, I mean, it's 96 degrees in Arizona today. What do we do?
Yes. Yes. To go switch from a climate controlled indoor stadium to, everyone's going to be sweating and it's going to be really hot. And I mean, playing baseball in the heat is ridiculously tough. I think I'd rather play in the heat than in the cold for baseball, but
For
it
sure.
is not fun to play a tournament style, to play in a tournament in that consistent heat every single day. And it's definitely not as fun to watch it. And so part of what makes the Big 12 tournament so great is seeing fan bases all come together, as I'm walking into the ballpark. Okay, I see, West Virginia and, you know, other, fan bases and Texas fans, last year. And then, this year you can see uh, Baylor and all these other and BYU, Arizona State, they all come together, and it's cool to see that mix of all the fans being in one place. But I don't think you're going to get that in Arizona, and it's really frustrating. Um, I don't know why they chose to do that. We're going to miss Globe Life Field. TCU will still get an opportunity to play there, but it's really not about TCU. It's about the entire conference as a whole being robbed of a really good opportunity. And yeah, I mean, much rather play at Globe Life. But anyways,
I got one final thought on this too.
yeah, go for it.
I don't know if you remember, there was also some rumblings that the Big 12 wanted to play its football championship in Vegas. This potentially opens the door for that to happen, as it looks like they really want to tap into that Western market. If that were to happen, and there was a lot of pushback for those rumors were circling, obviously for obvious reasons, right? Because that makes there
Yeah,
is no school
that's
in like
close.
west of Utah in the Big 12, so you're literally everyone has to go west to go to Vegas. Uh, it We'll see. I mean, I really liked what Yormark has done for a lot of his tenure. I really think that when he took over, this conference was kind of dead to rights after Texas and Oklahoma left, and he, with the additions of all the schools that he's gotten in, I think he's added 8 schools, right, since he's become the commissioner. That kind of resurrected the conference, not back to the level that it was, but back to a level that it could be proud of. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
it's stuff like this, though, that's it kind of seems like a minor move that just kind of undermines the whole progress that I think that the conference has made since Texas and OU left.
Very good point. Um, it's mind boggling for sure. All right, let's get into the Big 12 tournament itself that is being played at Globe Life this year. The top 4 seeds: West Virginia is the 1 seed, Kansas is 2, TCU at 3, Arizona at 4. So for the first round, TCU will await the winner of Kansas State and Houston, while the Jayhawks will await the winner of Oklahoma State and Baylor. So that's the Horned Frogs side of the bracket. They get the bye, so they're automatically into the quarterfinals, which will be played on Thursday, May 22nd. Now, I wanted to talk about this Kansas State Houston game, and you obviously feel good about Kansas State winning this game, so it would mean a rematch between Kansas State and TCU. These two
At
teams
Globe Life.
played. Yeah, at Globe Life. These two teams played each other at Globe Life. It didn't count as a Big 12 game, even though obviously it was a matchup between two Big 12 opponents there. But they did not play during a three-game series at all this season. And Kansas State demolished TCU. I was at that game. The Wildcats won 10-2. I left early. That's how bad it was. Pitching wasn't great. Hitting really couldn't get anything going, but a lot has changed since then. So I think that game is a wash. It's not really something you can look at and be like, ooh. But it still is worrying about, facing a Kansas State team. Um, you know, could be tough for TCU.
Yeah, and you mentioned the other teams on the side of the bracket. Houston. If Houston were to win that K-State game, that's big. TCU has played really well against Houston ever since Houston's joined the conference. I think including 2 out of 3 this year. Kansas, TCU swept Kansas. So if they were to meet in the semifinals, that would be good. TCU played really well against Baylor this year as well. Did not play Oklahoma State. And TCU and Oklahoma State have kind of had kind of a push and a pull kind of relationship in terms of sometimes it looks like Oklahoma State's really good, TCU the other side of the different coin there. But yeah, I like the side of the bracket for sure, more so than the other one where you play teams like Arizona and Arizona State who gave TCU some trouble. Cincinnati was a tough out. West Virginia is the best team in the conference this year. Certainly, I like the side of the bracket a little bit more. It'll be tough regardless, obviously. It's postseason play. But yeah, I like it. I think TCU can, at least make it to the championship game on Saturday.
I think they can too. It's favorable. I think it's going to come down to starting pitching, and just the pitching staff in general, because we know the offense has been able to out hit teams, but can you do that at this point in the season? It can be done, I will say, because you're playing a game every single day, so you're not facing the best pitching as with every single game. So that certainly can give TCU an advantage, but I am a little concerned outside of Tommy Lepore. Cademan Parker has really struggled his last 2 starts. He hasn't gotten past 2 innings, and then you have Mason Brassfield as well. But I am a little curious to see how Sarlos is able to manage the pitching staff for potentially 3 games here, where they're going to play back to back to back.
Yeah, and it's also interesting because I think the lack of a double elimination format really might change how you approach that first game. Whereas, TCU might want to save Tommy Lepore for, a more important game down the line and maybe not pitch him in that Thursday game. Now you kind of have forced to because it's win or go home no matter what. And I think they would have pitched him anyway, but I think it just kind of changes your, psyche about that just a little bit. Yeah, it'll be interesting how he approaches that. You can look at it almost just like a 3-game weekend series, right? And just throw out your rotation. But when you make it to the championship game, do you really feel confident in your Sunday starter going out there to win you a championship game? That's not up to me. I think that if the offense is clicking, I think this team beats anyone, no matter who's on the mound, to be completely honest with you. But yeah, it's a really interesting kind of study in how you manage postseason pitching, and it will kind of give us a glimpse into how Starlos would approach a regional.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I meant too. Is like, yes, it is a 3-game series if you could look at it, but you got to win all 3. Like, you can't just, oh, we'll just kind of figure it out. We'll do like a bullpen game or whatever. You got to do what you think is best. So yeah, how do you manage that? Do you go with Tommy Lepore against Kansas State, or do you wait till Kansas and or do you not look ahead? You say, okay, we're gonna play like this is the last game for us. So it'd be really interesting to see. I've got my eye on Luis Rodriguez, a guy that's been pretty good out of the bullpen for TCU. Someone that could definitely be the reason that the Horned Frogs get to that point. Obviously, Braden Sloan's another guy that they're going to be looking at. But I'm looking at the veteran arms of this TCU staff who have been in these positions before to kind of help them get to that championship game and hopefully win it.
Yeah, looking at the Cole Kleckers, you said Luis Rodriguez, they've pitched in these games before. Um, Cayman Parker, obviously, he's been with the program for a while. You're looking at all those guys that were on that team in 2023 to really kind of give you the correct mindset on how to approach these games. It'll be interesting to see for sure. Again, my outlook on this is that I think TCU has a pretty good shot to win this thing, or at least finish as the runner up. But if we want to jump into a kind of a more broader discussion about their outlook for the postseason, I don't know how much their performance here changes their seeding in, the actual tournament, except if they win it, perhaps.
Win.
But I really don't know if there's a lot to be gained for TCU in the Big 12 tournament. I think what they've done so far is enough to speak for itself.
I agree. Yeah, I think a championship would obviously change the discussion, but I still feel pretty good regardless of what they do. Obviously, you don't want to go out in the quarterfinal. You want to at least win one game, but I feel good about where they're at right now, that when the playoffs come around, when regionals come around, that they can at least make a deep run. I'm pretty sure D1 baseball did have them hosting in the latest
You are correct.
projections.
They've kind of jumped around a lot over the last couple of weeks. When we last talked, I think I said that they were the 13 national overall seed in hosting. And then later that week, they were projected as a 2 seed in a different regional, not hosting. Now they are hosting again as the 15th seed, and they would face the winner of the Arkansas regional in the supers if that were to happen. So if this were to be correct, TCU would head back to Fayetteville to face the Razorbacks. I did see, it was very funny. I saw a Arkansas beat writer that's kind of more of a fan, I guess. He kind of runs like a fan blog page for Arkansas, and he screenshotted this part of the bracket projection, and he goes, "I'm good, thanks."
I don't blame them.
Arkansas fans do not want to see TCU in Fayetteville.
They really don't want to see Trey Richardson, and I'm gonna have to talk to TCU and see if that's an option. Like, is Trey Richardson available? Can he play for us?
Where is Trey Richardson? By the way, I did have an addendum to this whole baseball conversation. I did want to talk about some of like some graduates from TCU and where and where they're at, because I was looking. I saw Elijah Nunez got called up to high A a couple days ago.
Nice.
And then I was looking at Curtis Byrne and Austin Davis are on the same independent baseball team. They're on the Sioux City Explorers in the American Association.
Nice.
And Austin Davis stole home the other day. Just wanted to put that out there.
Oh wow, that's pretty cool. Yeah, we're big Curtis Bird fans over here. We had him on one of our older shows, a year or so back, year and a half, and he was a great interview. So, we're always cheering on Curtis Byrne.
Trey Richardson is in Peoria, with the Cardinals organization, so we can get him down here, right?
Yeah, that's possible. Just if we play Arkansas, that's what we need him for. Yep.
That's what we need. Yeah, it's. I think TCU will probably. I don't know. I don't know if they'll host. It's kind of on the edge there. Obviously, if you're on a 15 national seed, go either way.
No guarantee.
No guarantee for sure. I really do think that their performance in some of those non-conference games earlier in the year are going to hurt their chances.
Mm-hmm. Losing to Arkansas in the early on in the season definitely hurt.
Southern Miss series, because Southern Miss, according to D1 Baseball, is also going to be hosting a regional. So, definitely Definitely, but still, TCU. I think obviously they're in the tournament right now. Season ended. They lose game one of the Big 12 tournament. They're still in the tournament, which is better than they were last year when they were, sitting fingers crossed, trying to make it. So definitely in a better spot than last year for sure.
Expectations are high with TCU baseball. They've definitely set that standard over the last few years, and it is good that they're going to be in it this year. And because obviously last year was very frustrating for majority of the season, so it's good to see that they're able to have a bounce back year overall. And we'll see what the run they have in store come playoff time. And of course, the Big 12 championship, which again begins Wednesday with the first round. TCU will await the winner of Houston and Kansas State. That game will be played at 8 o'clock, which is probably going to be more like 9 o'clock. If you've not learned anything with the Big 12, with these Big 12 tournament games, is that they never start on time. I
Yeah,
never show up early because I know the game before is going to keep going. They're going to I show up. I could show up at 7:45. The previous game is still in the seventh inning. What? What are we doing here?
yeah. TCU's game on Thursday will definitely not start at 7:30 either.
Nope.
It'll be a minor miracle if that were to happen.
It's a long day for the employees at Globe Life. The first game starts at 9 a.m.
Yeah, probably thankful that this is not double elimination anymore.
Yeah, seriously. We know when this game is ending. Or we know that there's going to be single elimination.
I was looking at all the other conference tournament brackets. Looks like single elimination is the new norm. So
I guess that's fine. I mean, it is nice to know that if you lose a game, you still have a shot. You would still be in it, but I guess it just keeps it cleaner and quick. It goes quicker.
There's just too many teams in these conferences now too for you to fit in a double elimination bracket into 4 days.
Yeah,
you can't do it anymore. There's 19 teams in the Big Ten or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah, and I think single elimination actually helps TCU a little bit more because they don't have as much pitching, and they could probably do it, but if they just have a really good day at the plate, they should be all right. That's kind of how I'm looking at it. So we'll see, but excited for this Big 12 tournament. I'm going to be watching, and hopefully they can make that run to the Big 12 tournament championship and win this whole thing, because West Virginia was regular season champs, and and hopefully TCU can be the tournament champs.
Absolutely.
All right, that is going to finish things up here for this episode. Man, that went quick. That was about 30 minutes, but that went by pretty fast. Enjoyed talking some playoff baseball with you, Seth. You can follow us on Instagram or subscribe to our YouTube page. You can also listen to us wherever you get your podcasts. All of that is at Believe in TCU. We thank you all for the support recently. And we'll see you guys next week for our recap of the Big 12 tournament. So for Seth Dowdle, I'm Zion Trammell. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you guys next week. And as always, go Frogs.